Well, welcome to our little panel up here. We're pretty excited to share our stories with you. And we're going to be pretty informal and casual about this, although I'm extremely nervous right now in the presence of these glorious entrepreneurs that we have on stage. But my name is Eric Howerton. I'm a co-founder of WhyteSpyder. And when we exited, I was Chief Growth Officer at the time. And so I was born in Jonesboro, Arkansas, moved here in 2000, started a business in this area back around 2010. And then we exited around 2021. And so have a lot of experience in Northwest Arkansas starting businesses along with these other fine folks with me up here. Welcome. We're going to be definitely telling you a little bit of intro about ourselves, and then we would like to open it up for any Q&As that you have. And if there's no questions, then we got plenty that we can start a conversation with. We actually all got together and had a nice little coffee date a few weeks ago, and we really should have recorded that because that was beautiful and insightful at the time. So, but we hope that you do engage and ask questions because we all do absolutely believe that this is a fantastic community to start your business, to be successful, and continue to drive the innovation of our area. And with that, I'll pass it over to Jared. Jared, give a little bit about yourself and who you're with.
Sure. Can you hear me? All right. Hi, everyone. Jared Smith. So my background's a little different. I started off as a scientist living in the Bay Area. Moved here from Berkeley in 2010. To take over the family business, which was Kitestring Technical Services. My dad had started it in the late 90s, called it LJ Smith & Associates. I moved here in 2010. We had, I think, 15 employees at the time, and eventually changed the name, kind of made it my own. He retired, and we've been kind of growing and going after it ever since. So we're a technology consulting agency. Like I said, 26 years old at this point. Our mission is to share our collective knowledge in order to positively impact our employees, our customers, and our communities. So what that really means, for a practical sense for our customers, is we help them solve challenging problems through three primary service offerings. We do strategic consulting, custom software development, and what we call talent solutions, which is staffing, technical staffing, and direct placement for senior technical roles. We primarily do this in the retail space, hence why we're here. We do this in the retail space. We help our retail customers with their challenging kind of critical systems like point of sale, payment systems, asset protection, PCI compliance, other things like this, but mostly around store systems. So we've worked with a variety of retailers. Obviously we started here with the local retailer, but we've worked with a variety of retailers at this point: gas stations, department stores, truck stops, big box retailers, obviously. And now we've expanded a little bit into supply chain and transportation and logistics, areas we also feel like we're well positioned to provide value, and that's us. So,
thanks, Jared. Myra.
Hello, everyone. I am Myra Dallas. Most recently, I was the CEO of Acorn Influence, but I'll take you back a little bit from my background: trains, planes, automobiles, and influencers. One of these does not look like the rest. I spent a couple of decades in the transportation and logistics area, and then chose, by a lot of people questioning my insanity, to step into the startup world and into influencer marketing. But it was probably the best decision that I ever made. Lots of fun and a lot of gray hair and other lost sleep and a few pounds along the way. But influencer marketing, Acorn was the last passionate place that I was at. We had an exit. So from startup to exit was about 8 years. Acorn is still thriving in the community today, but we were acquired by New EnGen out of Seattle. And at that time, I stayed through the transition and then left in very capable hands, and I'm on to doing some other fun things.
Thank you, Myra. Mr. Dan Sanker?
Yes, thank you. I'm Dan Sanker. I have started and sold 2 companies, venture-backed companies. Grew up in the New York area, then went out to grad school in LA, and then moved out to Fayetteville about 17 years ago, and just recently moved to Bentonville, which is even better. But I started a company called K-Stack, which was a logistics company, so also a little logistics experience, tech-enabled services company. Then I spun out another company after we sold that to Hub Group, and that was about 5 years ago, the spin out, and we started a company called SupplyPike. And in August, that was acquired by SPS Commerce. So I'm still there. I'm no longer CEO, but I'm an advisor now, which is good for me. And I'll be there as long as it takes to do some integration and stuff like that. But over the course of all of that, I raised a lot of capital from venture capitalists, private equity groups, banks, pretty much like the whole gamut of capital raising, put together a team of people that I was fortunate to find, and it was all just this motley crew of people that both times, completely different teams, just amazing people, and an amazing group combined, like a combination of an amazing group of people. So that was great, and both businesses were very tech-based, and we had really created technology in each space that didn't exist. And still to this day, even the first company, which would, if it were still independent, started and will be 24 years old, I think the tech is still probably considered pretty cool tech. So it's been an interesting ride.
Thank you, Dan. Mr. John Collins.
My name's John Collins, and first I just want to say thank you guys for showing up today and being here with us. We've got a kind of a small group, so let's just have a good time and be open and just have a great conversation. Obviously, I think we're going to have a good conversation anyway, but glad to have you guys with us here. But my name's John Collins. I am a native of Arkansas, originally from Little Rock, and started out, went to the University of Arkansas, was then in finance for about 15 years, and really just got burnt out on that. In finance, I was most recently with a company called Merrill Lynch. I was an advisor, and I was just really looking for a change, and I'd had a previous stint in writing a book, and we're kind of going to date ourselves a little bit, but going back to around 2009, there's this website called Amazon, and there's a place where you went to go buy books, believe it or not. And we launched the book there on Amazon, and we did a lot of things, but I didn't actually end up selling a lot of books. But what was great about that experience is that it was my first experience working with Amazon on the other side, not as a consumer, but learning about e-commerce and what goes into that, and this whole thing about ranking a product and what does that mean. And so I was really intrigued by that. And although I didn't sell a lot of books, fast forward about 2 years, and I was ready to make the change. And I opened a nutritional supplements company. And one of the places I really wanted to focus on was Amazon. And I felt like there was a lot of traffic that was going there, but not a lot of people that were really focused on Amazon as a platform as the first place focus. And so long story short, I became a #1 seller or top 1% seller on Amazon during that time period. Then about 2015, we opened up an agency. And I think I was confused on where I was located. I decided to open an Amazon agency here in Bentonville, Arkansas. But there was a lot of great relationships. We grew that agency, had a lot of great relationships there, and worked with some amazing brands. It was through that experience of working with those brands that we found a real area of focus that there was not a lot of answers to at that time, and that was around chargebacks and shortages. While there was a lot of great business that was being had in terms of volume and revenue on the Amazon platform, there was an emphasis on profitability, and the margins certainly were pretty low. And so we saw as a breakage point, and that was in the logistics and supply chain and shortages. And so we felt like we had an opportunity from the data that we were already collecting, and so we spun off a company that was called ChargeGuard. And so what ChargeGuard did is we focused on, hey, where is that breakage at? Why are we getting chargebacks? How can we actually resolve these shortages and get the vendors that we worked with paid the money that they were owed, and ultimately increase profitability? And so that's what ChargeGuard was all about. So we made that pivot. We had an exit with OmniiX. That was the name of my agency. And so we had an exit with a company called Society Brands in 2022. I actually ended up staying on with that company as the CMO for a period of time. And then we also followed that with an exit of ChargeGuard in 2023. So that's been about 1 year ago. But ChargeGuard's doing amazing. Still one of the leading first-party vendor recovery services, particularly on the Amazon channel, and doing about 10 billion or so in GMV right now for ChargeGuard. And right now, I'm finding interesting things to do.
I think I remember when I remember when I met you, and that was that way back, and you said Amazon. We met in your office in Rogers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing
why
here?
Amazon?
What are you talking about? You mean Walmart? It's like, no, Amazon. So that was interesting. It was really before we kind of looked at this region like it was a retail hub. I think at that time we all thought of it more as a Walmart hub.
That's right.
And it changed, and you were really there. You're a big part. You were like there in the early days, but that was cool.
It really is interesting to think back. Right now, of course, I think about it as retail, and truly this area is the retail mecca of the world. I truly believe that. And at that time, you certainly thought about it from a retail standpoint, from the physical stores of Walmart and that presence. But I think we're working towards, and I think we're really realizing that, is shifting to just retail. And that certainly includes e-commerce, not thinking about it as separate planes, but retail is retail.
Yeah, so if y'all have any questions, you probably want to go ahead and get ready, because you can see that we're going to just start flowing our own convo here in a second. But I would like to encourage you, I'm assuming that if you're in this audience right now, you have a desire to start a business, grow a business, something like that. This is a really good opportunity to get some feedback about what it really takes in our area. But until I see somebody asking a question, I would like to ask, Myra, tell us a little bit about what you see is, valuable and special about Northwest Arkansas to start a business. Just from the community standpoint.
Yeah, I think that you look around in this room, the people on this stage, the knowledge and the mentorship that's available in the ecosystem, I think is hugely important to anyone that's wanting to start asking questions, having the resources. Just ask anyone and they can connect you with someone. That's how sense of community this is. I think it's an encouraging place to be. And I've talked to many, entrepreneurs, and people have great ideas from all over the country. And I tell them all the time, if you don't come to Northwest Arkansas and at least take a look around, you're being mistaken in your go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would say that in addition to that, just the sheer amount of opportunities, all of us have experienced that, right? There's got to be hundreds or thousands of angles that you can take. And just like Dan was saying, this being the retail hub, I see it as that. And I agree. especially when you think of omni-channel retail. And that's just got thousands of applications. Jared, what have you seen? Oh, well, we got a question. Well, never mind. Thank you, Myra.
And
Snuck
can
over
we
there.
award for first question of the presentation here of the panel? So thank you for asking a question.
Yeah, and John's got cash for you as well.
We'll be collecting an audience pool.
I didn't even know that was part of the motivation, so thank you for that. I'm just curious, it occurs as all five of you are introducing yourself that each of you just kind of started your business from a great idea and examining a need or finding an unmet need that was really what drove all of you. Can you guys kind of talk a little bit about how did that genesis happen? How did that idea happen to start a business? Was it you saw a problem and wanted to solve it, or what? Maybe some advice you might give to the group.
Who wants to start first? John? Jared?
I'll start.
I'm the worst moderator on the planet, aren't I? Go ahead, John.
I think one of the things that, when you're looking at coming up with an idea for a business is getting in front of the wave, right? Is not trying, at least for me, not trying to create demand, is how can we serve demand? And for me, I'd say, and I'm going to talk about our experience with ChargeGuard, because ChargeGuard was really grew exponentially very, very fast. And I think that was a product market fit that we saw demand because we were already in the space of working with clients, and we already saw, hey, here's a big problem. And when we looked around, we saw that there was really no one solving that problem in an efficient manner. And we felt like we had a real right to win in that area. And once we started sharing that, it was just one of those right timing. I certainly can't take credit for that timing. It was right in front of COVID, by the way. And so there was a lot of things that really helped spur that. But it was truly, here's the situation. The demand was already there. And when we started talking about that and sharing, hey, if this was a solve, would there be interest? And it was a resounding absolutely. And so we really felt like that was inspiration for us and motivation for us to solve the problem.
Go ahead, Dan. You got a response?
Yeah, I think usually you see it. It's a frustration, probably. Like you were kind of in the business on the other side. I think that happens a lot, where you're somehow feeling some sort of frustration and thinking like, why doesn't somebody fix this? And I'm totally cool with somebody fixing it, but when somebody doesn't fix it, I sort of feel like I want to do it, but I'd like someone else to do it. But that was my motivation both times, really, was seeing things like that. I think that's probably, and everyone has ideas, but you kind of have to test out the ideas. I see a lot of companies, I'm sure we work with a lot of startups just that come and talk to us, and we work with venture capitalists a lot. And you can kind of tell at some point now, I think, after we've done it a little bit, some of the ideas just look like really good ideas, and you see an open market. And some of them you're thinking like, there's issues, like it might not be scalable. That's a big deal. It might be really hard to sell, even if it's a great idea. Like we had some products at SupplyPike that we sunsetted. I'm sure everyone has had products that they sunsetted. And I would still say we sunsetted probably most of the team, including my favorite product, but I just couldn't figure out how we'd sell it. So you can have a great product that's awesome, great technology, and then if you can't sell it, it really isn't a business. So there's all these little components to it, but it seems like it sort of starts with some sort of a frustration where the market's broken.
Myra, you got any comment?
Yeah, I just think that, you're exactly right. Listening, and I would say encouraging everyone to double down on your listening skills, because put yourself in positions with folks, ask them a question, and then sit back and let them tell you what their frustrations are, what they need, and what they're looking for. And I think that is one of the things, at least for Acorn, a lot of the things that we were able to accomplish came from listening to our clients, staying within certain, boundaries. We were an influencer marketing company, but listening to our clients tell us what they needed, and then us going out and about trying to solve that problem for them.
Perfect. Jared, what you got?
My scenario is a little bit different in that I did not start my business. I had been living in California, moved home. I was a co-founder with my father. I owned 10% of the business, and he was just done. So I came in with the seed of a business. We had about 14 employees, and what we'd been doing at the time was writing code for Walmart point of sale. So he was really fortunate. His first customer was Walmart in 1997. So I came in 2010, got this business, but really we were just writing code and getting paid for it. That was the entire model. Like we hadn't really thought beyond that. So what I did is started thinking, how do I scale? How do I have this business that had 15 people and had a few million in revenue and was doing okay? How do I scale this? And it really came down to me always thinking about what are the pain points that our potential customers, we wanted to do services. I always wanted to do service. I wasn't really looking to build a product. So I was looking at how can we, through our particular capabilities, address our potential customers' pain points. So just kept thinking about that, and that I had the world's largest retailer as my core customer allowed me to begin to scale and think about retail. So going to more and more retailers, I had to kind of unfair advantage in that I'd started off with the biggest.
Excellent. You know, that question, I'm sorry?
Yeah, we have another question.
Yes. Y'all mind if I'm going to give my take on, my favorite key word about that question was the word Genesis. And, you know, agree with what everybody's saying. I think there's two things that come to my mind when I think of Genesis. When we see a market problem or there's a frustration, whatever it might be, you know, I find that it's been more important for me to be thinking really small, that the problem is extremely small, right, in a way. However, it's core long term. So like when we did WhyteSpyder, the problem was pretty small in the fact that suppliers just for some reason couldn't get their information onto Walmart.com for multiple amounts of reasons, but that was a pretty small niche. But then we're also dealing with content in which, you know, a shopper can't buy products online or in Omni space without there being relevant content to it. So it did have enough depth to it. And then like even what Jared was saying, like as you get down into a core of an idea, there's all kinds of tentacle things that come up along the way. So just because it's one idea, just, you know, expect to navigate and then be able to evolve and adapt really quickly. Yes, sir.
So I'm a believer that businesses succeed not because they have one extraordinary thing, but because they survive long enough by avoiding really dumb decisions or big mistakes. Would love to hear any lessons or mistakes you have made that perhaps could save some of us.
That's a fantastic question. So yeah, I'll kind of start that out. So I think one of my biggest mistakes is that there have been times where I've gotten ahead of myself a little bit, right? So when you're starting, I mean, there's different phases in business, obviously, but in the very beginning of a startup, you know, a lot relies on the entrepreneur because the entrepreneur has this vision, just like what we talked about. There's a genesis there. It takes a long time, I think, to articulate that vision and to communicate what you're actually trying to do. Because the more people you bring into an organization, the more ideas come up, and then that starts diverting really the purpose and what the entrepreneur can see. And at the end of the day, the entrepreneur is the one that has the money on their back, or even in the case if you raise all the capital and you're the CEO, the responsibility is yours. You have to keep things intact. And so there's been a couple of instances that where I might have brought in folks that had an experience that I saw was the next step in evolution of the business, but I was 6 months or a year too early. And that caused frustrations on both sides. That we lost some clarity of vision, and the folks that were brought in, you know, could not align to that because they were a step ahead, and we weren't really at that point yet. You know, and I thought that was one of my biggest lessons learned.
I mostly make mistakes, so I don't even know where to start. I think two I'll focus on here. My team's around here, so they'll know what I'm talking about. It's hard for me to, it's really, I would say, find a strategic focus and somewhat stick to it. It's really easy to bob and weave and sort of chase the shiny object or chase the revenue. And if you look at big, large-scaled companies, it's because they had a focus and strategy that they stuck to. And it's easy to come off that. So that's a mistake I still make today. Another one is it's you know, there's some amount of, I guess, you're obviously open to risk if you're an entrepreneur in the first place, but it's easy for me to be too conservative. You know, I need to, in many instances, need to swing for the fences. But, you know, particularly that I own the whole company, we have no debt, we have a, you know, good cash balance and all these sort of things. So I tend to want to protect my lead a little bit. And when I really need to be swinging for the fences, that's where you're going to find success.
I would say it's okay to say no. And it's hard to say no when you're starting a business. And that's a lesson I learned early on when people, you know, I just said, go and listen to a client or a potential client and let them tell you what their problems are. And then you're trying to solve all the problems and you can't, right? So just because people ask you to do something doesn't necessarily mean you need to invest all your resources to chase something that takes you away from your core. Understand what your strategic alignment is, what your vision is, and stick with it Not being afraid to take, to take risk is one thing, but chasing a shiny object that takes you into the ditch is a really bad thing.
Yeah, there's so many things, but definitely the focus is huge. So one of the things that I actually learned probably when I was at Procter & Gamble, was a model for objectives, goals, strategy. Were you at Procter too? Somebody was in Procter. There's objectives, goals, strategies, measures. That's been really good for me. So we set annual goals, objectives, goals, strategies, measures, and we stick to them. And it really works well to not get lost throughout the year. And what ends up happening is you get a little bigger and you bring on people. You can bob and weave if you're one person. And especially if you're sort of entrepreneurial, you kind of like doing it, I think. Yeah. And you kind of have to in the beginning because you're probably not in the right place. Like you just inherently probably started in the wrong place and you've got to pivot a few times. But every time you get bigger and you add people, I've seen it so many times now, if you change what you're doing, what you end up with is just an organization of really confused people. And they're not you, and you like it, like that might be like your personality. That's why you started a company. They didn't all sign up for that plan. So that's really important. The other one that I think I learned early, well, it took me, I'm not that fast, but I didn't really appreciate the capital part as much. It's like people, capital, technology. I didn't realize that as the CEO, we raised venture and private equity, but I didn't realize how much of the core resources of like my time, and the team, and even the money, my resources, I mean the people time, but also actual money to manage the venture capitalists like their customers. And I always just thought, well, they wouldn't want us to waste their money and their time, so let's not spend too much time on that. But it's a huge mistake, because if they're not on board, they become your board of directors. And if they're not on board, whatever the plan is, and you start to lose them because you didn't spend the time cultivating that, then they get lost. They have huge strategic influence, and then you can't get anything done. And that took, $25 million and 4 years out of my life. Like the whole of the plan of all of it was that I just didn't understand that they were lost. Whereas if that were a customer, we would have been on that. Like we would have gone like, we would have had customer success people and a team, and we would have gone like, okay, that customer is lost. They're going to go away. This is high risk. But since they were an investor, I thought, well, they're on the team. They're going to get it just somehow. It's almost like a relationship you have at home where that person's supposed to read your mind and they just know everything. And that's not really what's going on. So I'd say that was a huge one. And then I'm hogging it a little bit, but the other, on mistakes, I got lots of stuff. But the other one was probably, I kept people, you got to get people in at the, like to your point, people it's like just in time people. You have to have the right people for the right world they're living in at the right time. And I kept people on, some people too long. And they just they were over their heads, drowning really. And I just was not comfortable. They did so much at this early stage, and you become like family, like you don't know how to deal with it. And then they sacrificed a lot, and I didn't really feel comfortable having them somehow not be part of it. But it turned out in the end, I would say, like, I'm still really good friends with those people. And some of them, we had to part ways, but they just were in the wrong place. It was wrong for them. It was wrong for the company. It wasn't fair to the other people. And I just didn't let it go.
Yeah, I think that one of the things I talk about is what we suffered from a lot, certainly earlier on, particularly around the agency, was this this aspect of growing and widening our service offerings. And again, it goes back into, hey, the client wants this and they've got to check if we can do this. And I'll tell you many times what that ends up happening is both people are not happy with the results. And what the counterintuitive thing is, and what I try to embrace is being myopic in, hey, here's our scope, here's what we do extremely well. And one of the things that I talk a lot about, or try to say a lot, and a lot of times I'd be the one saying, hey, we need to do this. Until again, I kind of learned. But we talk a lot about not being surface level. When you try to do too many things, you're surface level and you're not giving yourself that opportunity to go deep. And we started having these reoccurring meetings about the diamonds are found deep. And the deeper you can go in this particular area, a couple things happen. You end up being extremely well-versed in that particular area, but then you're also behaving, you really truly form an expertise and you're around because, going back to your question, we were good at this one thing, and the only reason we were good at it is because we stuck to doing that one thing. And we probably weren't good at those other things we extended to, but this one thing, that's where the diamonds are at, and that's what kept us around for the longer period of time, which actually ended up in, that was the success metric, is we just lasted longer because we were good at that particular area.
Yeah, that's really rich stuff. I'm getting a lot out of that. Yes, sir.
Hi there, my name's Ellis. I'm an engineer in the area. First off, thank you for being here. Thanks for investing your time into us. I grew up in Little Rock, went to school out in Boulder, Colorado, been here for a few years. Sisters out in New York, buddies in Texas and California and all over. My question is, what makes Northwest Arkansas the ecosystem here? What are some of the advantages and disadvantages in your experience? We've got, Berkeley and New York up on stage and a few other backgrounds. What have y'all seen, kind of the pluses and minuses, and 5, 10, 15 years from now, how we can scale the community more around businesses?
John, why don't you kick us off? That's a great question.
I think right now, the reason why I think about the retail mecca of the area and why we have a lead and how we need to hang on to that lead is that we've got a tremendous relationships here. We have a tremendous network. Let's look at everyone that's right here. I think that there's anything that we all want you to start, there's a way to get it done just for the relationships that we have here. But it's also, I think there's a flip of the coin too, that we are in a really changing world right now where the world's getting a lot smaller. So everyone doesn't necessarily have to be here, but I'll tell you one of the things that one of the larger organizations can really start to focus on and continue to focus on is working with and investing in the entrepreneurs that are here in our area. Right? I think the more that the large, the Walmarts, the Tysons of the world continue to focus on the entrepreneurs, those entrepreneurs are bringing some of these new people into the business and really creating change and evolving and bringing innovation that's going to lead into the bigger corporations, right? I think the advantage we have with entrepreneurs is that we can be a lot more nimble, right? We can make a lot more changes. And so it's a lot harder sometimes for some of the larger corporations to do that. So as those corporations are investing in those entrepreneurs that are making some of those more nimble changes, it ultimately lends greater appetite for some of the engineers and some of the other tech leaders to come into our area. And sometimes they start with those startups that are being invested in by the larger corporations. So that's what I'd say is large organizations continue to focus and invest in the entrepreneurs that are bringing change.
Yeah, people always ask me when I go out, like, why are you here? It's because I liked it. But there's no good answer. I usually say I was in the witness protection program, and they somehow believe me, even though if you think about that, I probably wouldn't tell you I was in the witness protection program. So I found moving out here, I was in like the tech, we were a tech company in a tech area. I was in Santa Monica, and I had been coming out here on a board at the university, and I just got this vibe. It was cultural. It wasn't as much about, there's clearly the thing, it's this big ecosystem of CPG companies and all that stuff, but it was really the culture that was just incredibly striking to me over time. In LA, nobody helped each other. Like, we would all help each other even competitively, we somehow would help each other. We don't care that even if we're competing, we want other people to, it's a cultural thing where people seem to want other people to be successful. So when I came out, it was the weirdest thing. I met anyone who was doing entrepreneurial stuff. I just ran into somebody who said, you should meet this person, and they were really helpful. And then somebody said you should meet all the Congress people and the senators. I met all of them. Somebody said you should go meet the governor. I met the governor, the dean at the business school and the college. And it's LA, I didn't even know who those people were, let alone go meet them. And everybody kind of had the same attitude. It was, how can we help you do whatever? I don't even know, like most of them were like, I don't even know what you're doing, but how can we help you do it? And that was one aspect, was the help. And the other was just moving anything out of the way, like no bureaucracy, really. Like compared to LA or the bigger cities, there was no anything bureaucratic. It was just like, well, we'll just change it, whatever it is, so you can do the thing you want to do. And then I go, oh, okay, can we start working on that? Because that'll take like 2 years. And they go like, no, let me just make a call and we'll just do it. And I'm like, really? So it was always like, everything I've done here was completely different than everything we did in California. It was just this, let's just do it. Even if they don't even know what it is. I mean, it probably has a negative too to it. It's a pretty risky thing to do. But you see it a lot for people who move out here. We still all do it. People move out and you're like, oh yeah, we'll give it a shot. And it's just because they're here. And there's not that many people, I guess. So it's not as cluttered, like, really. But there's this real can-do attitude. And on the downsides, there's these classic downsides that everybody talks about. So there's not as much capital, clearly, as in bigger cities on the coast to go raise money. And then when I said I was going to move here, most of our VCs said, you're never going to find the tech people you need. And neither one of those things is a problem. My response to that now when people say it is, you're right, you'll never find the people that you need here, and you'll never find the capital because you're here if you're lazy. Because they're here, but you have to try. They're not going to just walk into your face and be there. But they're definitely here. That everything you need is here.
I 100% agree, and it is here. And you can look around the room, and you walk out the door, and you go to the grocery store or the coffee shop, and the people are here. The resources are here. There's a spirit of wanting to be, to your point, I think, encouraging and helpful. You're less than 1 degree of separation from the person that you need to talk to or meet. It's incredible. And I am an Arkansas native. I grew up a stone's throw away from here. I worked all over North America, had the opportunity to live anywhere I wanted to live, and I chose to come back here. And the reason that I did that was because of the quality of life, the people that I get to interact with every single day. And if I don't want to, I don't have to. But, the opportunity to drive literally 20 minutes, I live in Fayetteville, and be anywhere in anyone's office, and just the spirit of success. Everybody wants you to succeed and will do whatever they need to do.
I think I'm going to parrot almost everything everyone said so far. But I'll add a little bit more. It's the openness and culture that's been great for me. I can get a cup of coffee with almost anyone in this town, and have been since at any point, because people are open to, even if they don't know what you're doing, they're going to find out, and they're open to helping you. And another thing that Dan reminded me of, from 2015 to 2020, when I was working hard to build the business, a very competitive, very similar firm called RevUnit that I'm sure some of you are familiar with. One of their main guys was Michael Palladino, and we hung out probably every month or so, got coffee. I mean, we were absolutely by every metric a competitor, and all we did is exchanged ideas, talked about, and we were kind of growing it exactly that we had the same revenue, same profit, same number of people, a lot of things were similar, and we were helping each other, and I don't think I would have felt that anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I can Go ahead. No.
No, I think there's some. I always think about like why is it like that, and I think some of it is just there's some sort of accountability based on the fact that it's a small town. So you can start when you're in like Silicon Valley, you can start the conversation about some kind of deep tech really fast. That's cool. So that can help some kind of companies get ahead faster. But here you can start a conversation with a person, and you can trust the conversation because they're in a community and they know the same people you know, and you can't be here if you don't do what you say you're going to do. You will end up, there's people that have done it, and we've seen them all, and some of us have invested money in some of them, but they can't stay because eventually they can't do it anymore because we all know and we all are a community. So you get this immediate accountability and a comfort level, I think, and I think that's what leads to the ability to like immediately start working with people and trust them and just think like, oh, well, maybe it's a good idea. I'm going to help them make it work.
Yeah, and I think we're in a really special time right now in the sense of where, you know, I feel like we're in that mid phase. We're growing, but we're still small. And I don't think there'd be probably a better time to probably start launching something because you can get those cheerleaders. I mean, it's true. Like I had cheerleaders every time. I mean, I have cheerleaders a day about my new business. You know, people are excited for me. They want to know about it. They come by and see it. You know, I bump into them at coffee shops. I mean, hell, you could go around and just make a business plan to go hit every coffee shop every day, and you'll stir up business, you know, because you're bumping into people that care about the community, care about you personally, and want to see you successful. And heck, I mean, if there's more people that are doing it, the stronger the community gets. But to Dan's point, one of the challenges was the capital. I mean, it was really like, we weren't successful at trying to raise capital for WhyteSpyder back in the day in the area. I wanted Arkansas capital. I didn't want to go outside the area to do it. I mean, I'm a big Arkansas fan, big Walmart fan, all those things. I wanted to see it here, happen here. We couldn't access it, but we ended up getting acquired. But, you know, that made it challenging during that time. But I'm starting to see that change quite a bit around here. I mean, really you have a VC, you know, pop up in about every coffee house and bar in the area about every day of the week now, which is exciting. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity right now in this area to take on those challenges. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sapna, and I'm just curious to know what the exit process has been for each of you. Like, at what point did you decide to sell your business? Was it thought over for a long time, or was it unexpected, or was it just part of the plan? And also, what kind of emotions did you go through during the process?
That's a really good question. I mean, I'll kick it off on that. So it kind of came to us in a way. I mean, you know, we were always talking and discussing and you know, really when the macro circumstances started happening. I mean, I say that when COVID happened, everybody recognized that the internet really is real around here, especially, you know, because we've been so brick and mortar based for so long. And I mean, that really accelerated a lot of discussions for us. As far as the right time, it was really about the right acquirer. So we got acquired 100%. We didn't really raise anything beforehand, as I mentioned. But it was about the culture fit. You know, it was about our people. It was about what they're going to be doing, what the growth plan was. We had a couple of different options, and we chose this one because of that culture fit, and it was a really good decision for our point at that time. As far as emotional impact, I mean, it's really surreal. Like it's been 2 years, and I'm still not understanding that it really happened. I mean, I've actually talked to the wife about that. I'm like, I consciously try to recognize that this event happened, and it just still doesn't register. You know, so I just get back on the crazy train with another venture and go through it again. But what's been awesome for me personally is seeing the team get rewarded from that event. You know, I was just really I was one spoke in the wheel at making that thing happen, and it's been really neat to see them grow and to see them get extra opportunities. And you know, I mean, that was probably my most rewarding part.
Well, the short answer for me is I haven't exited, but more importantly, I think I have no plans to exit. I'm evergreen business. I'm 25 years old. Want to run it for another. I mean, I don't want to run it, but I want the business to live on for another 25, 50, or even 100 years. I like the idea of just building a business that's meant to last. You have to constantly pivot. You can't just build a single business that's going to do something different in 20 years than it does today. But that's my goal, is to continue building my business and my exit strategy is a gurney.
So I have a lot of respect for that. I mean, I really do, because I mean, like, even my companies now, like, I don't really necessarily have a evergreen perspective like that, but I have a lot of respect for it because it's not easy. I mean, that's a big challenge.
I'll echo that as well, and we'll keep the rotation going. But I just want to echo that, is that sometimes us as entrepreneurs, we think about that culmination of an exit so much, right? When do we get to that event? And then, again, even for me, once it happens, and it's kind of, oh shit, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. Right? You've been this hamster on the, going so far, and then this happens, and it's kind of, you have this question mark. And so sometimes it's, hey, I actually enjoyed what I was doing before the exit. So again, I just want to pat you on the back for that too.
I think for us, it was a little bit of timing. We knew that the market was right and our performance was great. I will say I was going to dip my toes into it, and then, oh, well, wait, I'm on the train, and here we go, I can't get off, it was a great, I will say, the relationship, the people that we chose to do the acquisition with were wonderful. They continue to be great partners. The team, I couldn't have planned it better. But from an emotional standpoint, that was my baby. It was really hard. It continues to be hard, and I sometimes forget, that I'm not the CEO, and we have a great CEO, and she is wonderful, and we talk, and it's wonderful. It is fantastic, but it is an emotional thing. You go through all that from nothing to the exit, and there's some tears and maybe some wine that was drank, on occasion, thinking about it. But it was, all in all, it was a great time.
Yeah, I think Eric, to your point, emotionally, you don't even know it's happening, and you don't know it happened, and I don't even know when you start to figure that out yet. None of us probably have even gotten to the point where we know that it's happened.
It's comforting for me because I've been feeling like that was just my problem, but it's maybe not.
A hug. Yes.
Don't challenge me on that, Dan.
Yeah.
We have time for one more?
Last questions, real quick.
Last question.
Hi, my name's John. You guys are talking about all of how you would speak with other professionals and sort of improve your job performance and perform professional relationships. Would you as business leaders encourage your employees to do the same, and how have you to sort of grow how professional and useful this ecosystem is for the different types of jobs you have within your companies?
It's a good question. I personally, I intentionally set up my team with people I know. I'm like, you need to go talk to so-and-so, or I go ask my connections to meet with certain people. Just last week, I had one of the better ideas that I've ever had as an entrepreneur. I put on a little VIP client event, had my team get prepared for it, put the presentation on, watch them grow. I mean, it was like a 9-month fast forward of capabilities for them, but they got connected with the audience, and that was my intention, so that the community would know my team, and they would feel this freedom and basically break the ice for them to start connecting one-on-one.
I'll be real quick here. Mostly, I try to encourage my team members to find mentors and find there's many types of networks out there that you can join. There's, for my COO, there's a COO network. There's all kinds of things like that where they can find peer advisors and mentors, and just providing. I mean, we want to be a kind of a learn-it-all company, so we provide a lot of educational opportunities, and I think one of them is networking and mentorship.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Mine is going to parrot Jared, and that is mentorship. Find one and be one.
I guess the only thing I'd add is it doesn't always have to be exactly in your field. So step outside the field a little bit. There's creative collisions kind of that happen that are cool and really great ideas can come up and they can actually get executed. So I think it's great.
All right. You can see a group here lacking a little passion in what they do. So thank you y'all were fabulous. I love the energy and passion. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank y'all so much.